Hey everyone, it's Dr. Ramani. You know, I kind of get excited when the word narcissism is really in the public conversation. But I myself, I'm sort of culturally illiterate. So somebody reached out to me and they said, hey, did you see what happened on this show of the Kardashians that one of the sisters called the other sister narcissistic? I did not. And I actually don't know the whole backstory. And I realized in a way it doesn't matter because it really reminded me like, oh, that's not good that anyone called anyone out as narcissistic because it's never a good idea. Why? I don't know if the person on the show who called the other sibling out as narcissistic, I don't know if that person's narcissistic. I have no idea. I do not watch the show. But it gives us a chance to revisit why it's never a good idea to call out someone as narcissistic. And yet you might be wondering, come on, Dr. Ramani, I do watch that show. I'm reading about this on social media. They did it. How come I don't get to do it? Well, you can do whatever you want. When I tell folks to never call someone out as narcissistic, my main focus is to protect the person who is trying to call someone out as narcissistic. Mainly that, A, if the person you're calling out is narcissistic, if that's true, they're going to come for you. They're going to gaslight. They're going to call you narcissistic. They're going to call you names. They're going to confuse you. And by the time it's done, you're either going to be so wrecked, so exhausted, so tired, or so confused, and have wasted hours. Not to mention, because narcissistic people hold grudges, it's going to keep coming back at you, and that doesn't feel good either. The other reason you do not want to call somebody narcissistic is that let's assume you're going to stay in this relationship, which I have to say in a lot of these cases, people are telling me this Kardashian show is about a family, right? These are siblings. So the odds are they're going to continue spending time together. When you do that, I can promise you the one thing that calling someone out is never going to do is it's never going to move the conversation forward, right? Anytime we say anything that someone interprets as a critique is not going to move a conversation forward. And least of all this, like I said, especially if there's any truth to the matter, then it's really going to hit a particular wall. A third reason it's never good to call someone out as narcissistic is, honestly, in the system you're in, it's going to create factions, right? Because again, the example that was given me here is this is a family argument, right? And families are great examples of people taking sides, right? There's people who want to stand behind person A, there's people who are going to stand behind person B. So when you have that kind of an interaction and sort of throw that, sort of make that shot across the bow of calling someone narcissistic, you're going to take whatever triangulation that could be happening in the system, it could be a family, could be a workplace, and you're going to make it even more schismed. So I get complaints about this all the time. I've had people come up to me in public saying, why can't I call them out as narcissistic? You can do whatever you want. I'm not at all trying to encroach on your freedoms. And when it happened in as public a spectacle, apparently as this really, really watched television show, I got more than a few people actually reached out to me today and said, how come I can't do it? And they can. They can do what they want. You can do what they want. I didn't watch the show, so I don't even know if it got people to a better place. I'm willing to bet that it did not improve the relationship between these two people. It's probably not going to change the relationship, and if it does, maybe for the worse. But there's no information there. In a situation where you want to call someone out as narcissistic, if they're actually narcissistic, telling them that is not going to help, nor is pointing out their behavior going to help. Saying you did this and that hurt me, you did this and that bothered me, or I feel unheard, I feel unseen. Have you ever tried that with a narcissistic person? How'd that work out for you? Not so good. That's why it feels these relationships can bring up so much helplessness and powerlessness, because there's no real way to communicate about what's bothering you in the relationship, because invariably it's going to get shut down. It's going to get turned back on you. They're not going to take responsibility and they're going to blame you. So there's really no win there. If, however, you're in a relationship with someone where it feels unhealthy, but you're not sure, maybe they can hear you, and you try it and you say, this is what was done and this is why it didn't feel good. From that jumping off place, potentially change can happen. But simply using a blanket term, good blanket term, and a term that's a bucket that holds lots of qualities, since most people really don't know what narcissism means, like I said, it's not likely to push the conversation forward. But I gotta tell you this, and again, I keep coming back to, I don't know who the players are on this show, but I do know it is very, very, very popular. That culturally, the way these folks sit in the global conversation about fame and all of that, there's no mistaking the power of this. That this word is thrown around on a show like that is a big reminder of how far we've come. Listen, when I started doing this work initially, people weren't even sure how to spell this. They just thought it was about looking in mirrors. People just did not know what this was. And now, for this to not only be part of people's conversations more and more, but to show up in this place, and let's face it, most of what happens on a reality show ends up on the cutting room floor, and that they decided to keep that sequence. We're talking about this more. Is that a bad thing? I think it's only a bad thing if people don't know what the word means. A lot of people don't know what the word means. So I think it's understanding this word. It's a very powerful word, not in the form of accusation, but actually more in the form of understanding, of being in a relationship that doesn't feel healthy and trying to cut to the core of why it is so you don't blame yourself. But this word has arrived, and it is here. And it is showing up everywhere, including in things that apparently lots and lots and lots of people watch. I wouldn't be surprised if someday it ends up in a Super Bowl halftime show. But ultimately, I go back to my original premise. Doesn't matter who, doesn't matter where, doesn't matter if it's a TV show, and it doesn't matter if it's your Sunday dinner. Do not call a narcissistic person out. If you have determined, and you feel pretty confident, that this is what somebody's behavior is, hold on to that information because you've got a powerful piece of information. You now are going to be able to interact in that relationship in a way where you will feel more sane, less confused, less upside down, less anxious. And if it's a relationship that you don't feel like you can step away from or leave, you might be able to actually figure out workarounds that are not only good for you, but for the other people around you. I do not intend to start watching this TV show. I don't understand, I don't have the time. That said, shows like this have a profound impact on the cultural conversation, and I think this reminds us, this word, whether you like it or not, is here to stay. Thanks again.